Hey, welcome to our latest meetup in the Socially Connected series for Florida. I'm really glad that you were able to make it today. We have an awesome talk. Our speaker tonight is coming directly from Mexico, so he's a little bit international. So you have question in English and Spanish. You're welcome. Uh, Also, I want to mention that a little bit about our group. Our group is mostly for developers and entrepreneurs. We are a community-run organization. We are run independently from Google or other group that control Flutter. We also guide ourselves by our code of conduct, which is mostly very simple. It's just being nice to each other. We just try to make sure that we welcome everyone, regardless of any differences. We're just here to learn and help each other kind of grow our career or business. Our speaker tonight is really awesome. He's going to share his knowledge and time. He's been very grateful working with the community. Here in the U.S. as well as in Latin America. His name is Argel Bejarano. He's been doing this for a while, over 10 years. He's been working with Flutter for more than 2 years now. He also organizes a community, Flutter Community in Spanish. So check them out. Make sure that he does an awesome talk on different things. But make sure you connect. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Argel. Argel, welcome to the community.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm really glad to be here and help a little bit in my side. As you say, I have been giving different kind of talks in some places around mostly LATAM. I have been in Peru, Bolivia, Colombia, giving some talks. Also in many states in Mexico. So I hopefully this can help you as well as I have been helping people from the Spanish community.
Yeah, the idea is that we all, these new technologies like Flutter, we kind of all take it from different side and kind of make our own sort of understanding. And by sharing this way, I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot of stuff tonight. But I'm sure people, watching will as well. So this is the thing that I love about the Flutter community. Everyone is very welcome. I've been working with Flutter myself over 2 years since the beginning, since the beta version, and it's been fun participating in the community, going to different meetups and stuff like that. And I do this mostly to share what I know and bring people like you, expert on their field, to share with the community in general. So,
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. All right, awesome. So let me bring your screen and take it away.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So first of all, thank you all for having me here. Hola a todos. As Hendrix already told us, my name is Argel Bejarano. I'm from Mexico, from the north of Mexico. Today we're going to be talking about working asynchronously with Flutter. So we're going to be moving around this. A little bit about me. I'm a software engineer for more than 10 years right now, working in software. I'm a Flutter developer for more than 2 years, maybe almost 3 years. I don't know. I haven't been counting time, but it's a lot of bit more than 2 years, definitely. I'm a founder of the Flutter and Dart Spanish community. You can find us in Facebook as Flutter and Dart in Spanish. We are around 70,000 people in there. And we are also have a Flutter account in Twitter. So if you want to follow us, we are always there doing as good as we can with sharing stuff and everything. So I'm a GDG organizer also in my community here in Hermosillo, when I lived, is the name of the city. And I'm a software engineer and SIP dev. So this is my handle on Twitter, Arcangel B. Sorry for my Spanglish. I just get confused a little bit. So let's get in topic. So this is going to be the scope we're going to be talking today. It's a little bit for you know how it's going to be evolving in time, how far we are going in this talk. So we're going to be looking around theory about what is an isolate, an event loop in the future, how the future works. Sometimes we have been using the futures and we have been trying them and working with them, and so many times we don't actually know how this works. So it's going to be in depth in this. There exists a lot of different constructors for futures, so we're going to be one by one and work a little bit in depth on these ones because we have like 4 or 5 of them, different ways to use it. Also, it is important to know how to handle the futures. We have 2 ways, and we're going to go in deep also in these ones. And by the end, we're going to be working with this fake data future, a little bit of live coding. I decide not to keep you here like look at me typing in there. It's not fun on there. So we're going to be looking at code and talking about the code and showing how this is working. So let's get to it. So the first question that we have: what's a future? A lot of people says in the specific they talk about, oh, the future is like a promise in JavaScript, and it's okay. That actually doesn't work for me because I'm not a fan of JavaScript. So, but at the beginning, when I hear the word future, it was easy for me to understand. So let's read this couple of rows in here. It says a future is used to represent the potential value or error that will be available at some time in the future. This is the definition that you could find in the documentation of Flutter. But actually, it feels like recursive enough. It's talking about the future. It's something that you're going to see in the future. So it doesn't make much sense. So let's go a little bit in depth and try to make something different. This thing that a future is like we're asking for a box, like a gift. So we have a gift, right? And it's going to be delivered in some time. This is the future response. And when we receive this, we're going to be opening this. So we have 2 steps, or actually not 2 steps, 2 things that could happen. The first one could be the actual thing that we ask for. So it's going to be a like, whatever, a little dash in there. Or maybe we can have an error, and this could happen. So we need to know how to handle. So this is something that could happen in the future. We make this call, we ask for something, and then we have an answer. It could be in 2 states, an okay or an error. So let's kind of Stack Overflow this and get a little bit in the code as we used to do sometimes. So let's move and talk about what is dark asynchronous work. So for talk a little bit in this, let's talk about how this is possible in Dart. The isolates make this is possible. The isolates run in a single thread. They have their own memory, and they actually run in an event loop. So we have been using, or maybe you have heard about event loop. Sometimes we don't know when this is actually happening. What is an event loop? What's happening around the event loop when this initialized? So this is happening when everything starts. But we're going to talk about this a little bit further. Right now, we're going to be answer one question. Can we use just one isolate? This is a question that have been appearing once in a while in there. So if this is only running in one isolate, so I just can use this, or I can create more. So yes, you can create more. It's a good idea to be creating a lot of them. It's not actually a good idea because they run in a single thread. They're going to be creating their own thread. They're going to be asking for their own memory, and they are going to be creating their own event loop. So this is going to be like loading your computer, your cell phone, and everything. So it's not a good idea. If you have something that you want to run in a different thread, in a different event isolate, You can do it, but it's just to communicate with messaging, and then you're gonna stop this. It's not a good idea to have like a one isolate for every single one of the calls that we had. So it's just for answer this question. So we can use you can only use one isolate. No, you can use many, but it's not a good idea. So just keep that in mind. So how this application start? A Dart application start. At the beginning, it initialize two queues. One is called microtask. We're going to be talking about that also. And the other one is called events. So from there, this main executed and create an event loop. We talked about this a minute ago. So running on the event loop. So when we run the main function, this in create an event loop where the code is controlled. But what is we said that it run in a single one thread and it's never locked. So what is going to be doing while nothing is happening? So if no one's make a call, if no one is doing anything, if no one is like tapping in the screen or doing some calls, so what's the event loop in this case is going to be doing? So it could be like laying in the ground, but it also have the opportunity to do this. It's going to be called. It's going to be have running the garbage collector, and when someone click on some place, maybe in the counter, you're placing one more and one more and one more. Then the event loop is running, and it removes the garbage collector and start doing something with the events that is happening in there. So that's one of the things that happens when you actually are waiting for the event loop to have an event to run. So just to talk about words definitions that the Flutter team says about this, they call in two ways. If you have a future, you can call this when you make the call is uncompleted because it doesn't have an answer yet. So it's an uncompleted future. And when it's completed, it could be completed with value or completed with error. So it's the same analogy that I told you about the gift. If you can have the value, your actual gift, and you can have an error, maybe a mistake for the delivery guy or something like that. So you can have this as uncompleted or completed in both ways. So this is the circle that is going to be running in around the future. So there is no more information about this. This is a pretty easy way to talk about futures. But let's take a little bit further. We get used to talk about futures in network communication, doing an HTTP call for getting something or posting something. We have also used it in shared preferences. This is like, I don't know, maybe you save some, I don't want to the user going twice in your onboarding for your app. Maybe you can set a Boolean value in your shared preferences, and I need to ask, oh, he already go or she already go through this, and he says, oh yeah, it already goes there. So stop doing it. Then not show again the onboarding. This is one of the examples. It's an easy example, but it's one of the examples. But it also have the features have their own constructor. So they could help us to try some testing behavior. When you are working as an entrepreneur, you can like having a product and want to mock some information. But if you want to mock some information and not be sure how this is going to be showing, and later when you actually get your backend, you're going to be actually doing everything else again. It gets tired, and you can lose some money in there because you're going to be like redoing and spending some times in there. So we can use these little constructors to help us to fake some data and show it in our app. So we have the first one, and this is the future and have a return. This is watch my future. If someone says, oh, it could be smaller, yes, it could be smaller like this using a fat arrow. It's the same code that just change the regular braces to a fat arrow. And we have also this one, and you can set a value because maybe you already know this value, but you need to set it as a future, so you can send it and use it like this. And also, and the most usage is this one. This one is creating a delay. What is important to create a delay? Because sometimes we're going to be having different kind of states. We can have need to manage an empty state or something like that. So we have to create some delay. And if you are seeing these four images and you says, oh yeah, this is going to be printing what's my future and for it too, sorry to tell you that it's not going to be happening like that. You're thinking this wrong, because this right now is only giving you back an instance of the future int. The Dart analyze and know that it's an int, the value that you're going to be returning that future, but you only are having a future. You are not actually showing something. So what we have to do is easily this, just that then get the value from the future for the instance that we create, and then we print the value. And this is going to be printing what's my future for it too. Just an easy example, but is how this works. We need to be sure that we are not going to be sending just the future, because the future just have the information, have the instance of that class, of that method, of what value that we're going to be returning, but it doesn't have the actual value. You need to use the dot then or an asynchronous await. So there is one more, and we talk about a queue at the beginning that is a microtask queue. So it's going to be for all times, we're going to be using a diagram. I felt like this is better to understand what is going to be happening here. So we have this at the beginning, on the start in here, we're having initializing the two queues, microtask and the event queue. So we're going to be inside the main, and then we're going to start asking if microtask queue is empty, then you're going to be moving to event queue, and it's going to be asking if it's empty, you're going to be finished that method. But this is going to be inside some event loop, in a loop in here. But if you watch this, you notice that the microtask queue, it happens before the event loop. So we can say like this: a microtask is, would you want to ask to execute something in a microtask that you need to be running in the future, but before an event, a future event. So it's kind of weird to hear it like that, but if you have an event and some microtask happens in between this, the microtask event or the microtask queue is going to be at work first. So let's make it now with a little bit of code. Maybe you are not understanding that much the diagram. So let's look at this. We have this little code. You can put it in your Dart pad. It's going to be working. It's going to be printing. If we go into top to bottom, it's going to be begin main, first microtask, and a future with a first future, a first then of the future. If you're going like that, well, this is not actually how it's going to be running. And if we go, okay, so this in the future, you may think this is going to be running begin, and then start the futures, and going to be printing first microtask, first future, first then, but it's actually not the way it's going to be executing. If you want to know, this is how it's going to be the execution of this. It's going to be the begin main, end main, and then it's going to be the first microtask, the second microtask, the third microtask, and then it's going to be start working with the futures. As we see in here, we have the event loop and the microtask. So because we send 3 items into the microtask, this is going to be first, this task is going to be first done, and then it's going to be moving to the event loop in the future. So if we go back here, we have the first microtask, the second microtask, the third microtask, and then we're gonna be starting with the first future as we see here, and there's the first then, and then the second then. But inside here, we know that we have a new future, that microtask running in here, and even it's inside the second the then inside the futures. It's going to stop this execution, go back and send the work to the microtask, and then go back and finish the features that it has. So that's why I told you this definition is going to be for the microtask is something that you want to execute in the future, but it's going to be executed before an event in the event loop. So if you have some task that needs to be done before some feature in your code, you can use this microtask to set some work, and you are going to be sure this is going to be executed before your any future work in the event loop. Hopefully this is going to be easy to understand, but it's an example. It's just for you to know what everything that exists related to a feature. You could find another methods like run async, I think it's called, or run, I can't remember exactly the name, but these are different. It's not exactly for working in a way asynchronously. It's more like debugging with features, something like that. So right now we're going to be just working on the features, and how to work with their constructors. So now we have two ways to work with the future. We have the that then, we have the async await. They both can make the work done, but what is the difference? So let's see that then. We have a feature, we have value. We already see that you can use feature that value, send the value number in there. So well, it could be anything. I send the number. It could be a string, it could be a boolean, it could be an object, it could be a whole class, it could be a huge whatever. You can send whatever you want in there. And so you have your future, your instance, and you're gonna use a dot then. You get the value. You're gonna be printing this, and then you're gonna be adding something and send a return to the second then. And then you will try to catch an error. Not error is catching in there. And then you're going to be actually throwing an error, because this is an example that I want to use because of this. This one in here is not going to be reached. You won't be able to use this. But if you want to execute some code that always need to be executed, like, I don't know, maybe even if it's an error, or is if you're getting a GIF or an error, you can send something in the when complete, like the stop the loading. You can say something like that. You have your provider, and you are doing everything. You're a synchronous call, and you can say, if something goes good, you have to stop the loading. If something goes bad, you have to stop the loading. So you can remove this duplicated code to say you have to stop the loading, put it inside the when complete. This question has been done a lot of times in the Flutter Spanish community. So how can they always execute something asynchronously if they use that then? So that's why it exists when complete. This is going to be executed at the end, always at the end. Even if it has an error, it catch an error, or you throw an error, or whatever you want to throw in there, the when complete is going to be executed by the end always. So, but I don't know if you feel like that, but I kind of feel this crowded. You have a lot of information in the same rows. You have return in there. You have that then, and even if you have your commas in there, your semicolons and stuff. This is the way it's going to be shown, like a lot of rows, one in the other. So that's why I prefer using async await. Is for me, I feel like it's more clean code, and it's exactly the same. But this, you're going to be using a try catch block, and in try catch we also have a finally that's going to be working with the The same when complete is going to be done with the finally blocking there. So it's going to be the same code, but it looks so much cleaner for me. But as I told you at the beginning of this slide, you can choose whatever you want because both of them work. Just how you feel more comfortable. It's not some one of the other one could be better. It's like the same question that you have when you're talking about the stage management. How's the one that I have to use? I have to use this or the other one, and actually you don't have to choose. You can set I want to use this or this, and it's not that one is going to be better than the other one. It's going to be dependent if you're acknowledging in it, and you want to create something specifically in there. So it's going to be a choose. You can choose using that then or using async await. In my case, if I have something small to do, like just one then and one catch error and one when complete, I can use that then because it's just that it's working, it's not working, and when it's complete, I want to do this. But you have to make work with the result of one and the other, and this send a value to another and waiting for this. So this is can get pretty complicated to read. So that's why I moved to async await. So I can choose whatever I want, and it's going to be working together with no problem. Okay. So let's watch a little code. It's gonna that's not gonna be much, but it's important to know. So this is the basic um, the one we use for the counter. I just removed this little counter stuff just for know that is working. Let's remove this banner in the top. So yeah, it is working. We have this method. In this method, what is this? It's just a delay, and I'm gonna be waiting for 2 seconds, and I'm gonna be showing the value, a value one. So if we can see the code, we are using a future builder. In the future builder, we have to set a future, which is this method. If we read it in here, it's a future int. It's nothing really bad in there. And the value that we have is one in the snapshot that data to string. So if we just run this, we can set like, okay, value is null because we don't have nothing, we don't have anything in there. So we can set actually this one. If we set like this, we are not going to be seeing value null because it's not good to show a null value in there. So let's do it like that right now. So we're going to be showing a loading that is showing in the top. So let's put it in center and execute it again just so you see it in the middle. And now we're going to be waiting 2 seconds and then showing the value. And everything that is just an easy example of how you can use this get value. But let's say we have this value in here to show. I don't know if you have used this JSON placeholder. It's just if you want to use some mock data for start to showing something, so it's going to be helping you. They have this endpoint that's going to be sending you back something like this. So what I did is I just copy these ones and put it in here and complete the JSON. I set the number, and if I going to do some change in here, like I don't know, items, just for name, change the name. It's going to giving us this. This one is going to help us to not being changing or doing one by one the class, the fields, the factory from string to JSON. Everything is just way. It's not the only way. You can use I don't know, maybe some build runner with different settings for JSON serializer. Oh, there's a lot of ways to do this. It's just an easy way to start working with your data in your code. So you just click and copy code, and then you can go to your code and paste it in the class that you want. So we have a little couple of methods in here for lists. And let's try this. This is a fake to do. We're going to be using this. It's a list of to dos. We just can name it as we want, and we're going to use a list generate. This is just for generate 20 items. It could be more, it could be less. It's just after you. And we're going to be working and creating a list with 20 of these to do, and then going to be doing a delay for 2 seconds as the same that we do. But right now, our future is going to be a different future. We're going to be using, instead of using the get value, we're going to be using the get to do's fake. The error key, the error here is like this. It's because of this. We're going to send him back a list of to do, and that's it. That's going to be fixing. And we are not going to be showing a center text value because that's not something nice to see. It's like no one wants to start seeing something in the middle. So we're going to be showing a list view builder. This can stay in here because it's going to be a load, just a null validator. So if nothing is going to be actually from the back end or a null value or whatever, we can show a circular progress indicator. That's going to be the same. But if we have something in our list of to-dos, we're going to be showing something like this: a snapshot data, an ID, a title, completed or not, and going to be setting if it's done or not. Right now, we are only sending a false, so everything is going to be not done, uncompleted. So let's execute this, and we're going to be showing and looking at the loading and then a list. This list is going to be easy to do. So even if we don't have a backend right now, we could use like something like this and create a whole set of information with more text. Maybe in here we want to say the title of this is whatever we want, and this the subtitle is there, and we can change in here and add anything. We can maybe show some leading in here and show an icon, icons. I don't know, maybe a clock for something, an alarm, and we can show something in there and create exactly the design that we want to do. I repeat this again because it's not a good idea to start working with the interface that could change a lot and then with the backend. But sometimes when we are working as a startup or on our own without backend projects, this could be helpful. But for architecture principles and different kinds of stuff like clean architecture, is not a good idea to be working at the beginning to the front end. But it's something that happens maybe a lot in the startup world. So it's just for you have something to do and start moving forward. Because what can we do after we have, okay, this is our model, we're going to be using this model for to-dos. This is our model for product, for items, for TV shows, for classrooms, for whatever you want to use. And then you just change this, and then you have a get to do API call. If we go to this code, we are sending the same future list of to do. It's going to be the same, but right now we're going to be using the method that we find is defining here. We're going to be using this method in the to do class and send them as a list. If we look at here is a list of to do. If something happens, we're going to be sending an empty list, and just I left in there finally just for know that it's going to be executed at the end, even if it's happened an error or not. So let's execute this, and we should see exactly the same user interface, but we're going to have actual information for our backend or our API, and this one that is only uncompleted. You're going to be seeing some completed and some not completed. So let's find out that it's going to be working. And it's going to take you a couple of seconds, 1, 2, and now we can see this. This is yeah. We have to remember that I add some text in here. So let's, for you can see is the same code that exists in there. So let's do it like this. And we have the I using the ID, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. But we see this, the number 4. This is et porro temporal. It's like a Lorem Zoom, I think, and it's done. If you see before, we have only false. Right now we have a true, so we can set it as done. If we came here and look at the placeholder, and here we can see that we are actually getting information from our backend, and their API. So even we do whatever we need, we set our user interface, we set the fake data. When we are ready to move to the API, we just change the API call, and we use our actual code, and that's it. And if you see here, even it's finalized, it prints something that is executed in the try catch block, and finally you can see it in here. So this is actually the code that I want to show you. Is not that big, but it's pretty important that we know how to keep moving forward with a good and a strong code and good practices. It is good you can use in your prospect.yaml some different plugins to help you with your code, like Pedantic or Linter or whatever you want to use in there. And also doing like this is this is for this example. These API calls, you remember they have to be done in a different class. Remember you have to have your business like components blog or your whatever architecture you are using in a different file. Right now, for this example, it uses like this, but please don't do it like this. It's just for this example. So this is what I want to show you. Hopefully, it could be helpful for you. This is my email, my GitHub. I have some codes in there. I have my Twitter account. I always retweeting and posting stuff in there. And we have, I said we because Diego Velasquez is my partner in there, and we are doing the dark side where we talk about Flutter. This is Spanish. We are going to start to moving forward to English also, but also the code is clean. The code is well done. So even if you mute us, you can look at the code and learn something in there. We have this new widget in detail section, so you see how some certain widgets works in less than 10 minutes. So this is everything for me right now. I don't know if you have any questions, Hendrix. No.
I was mute. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. That was pretty good. Thank you so much. I'm looking for any questions you may have. If anyone listening has a question, please post them on the little chat window, so we could kind of go over that stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. And so, question. I guess I will start with questions. So, you show. I don't remember exactly, but you show different ways of sort of doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you recommend? Like, which one is like, okay, you must do it, like, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Like as I told you, I mostly think that it depends the moment that you want to execute something. Because if your code is going to be like a lot of calls, you're going to be using a lot of .then, I felt like it get crowded. The code gets so tied together, and you lost a lot of maybe order in there. And so if you have a lot of .then, you need to make some calculations in there and wait for something and everything else. So I must is this is a personal approach of this.
Mhm.
I prefer if it's a single call, get something, retrieve something, send them to my provider, to my user interface, or my whatever inner widget underneath in there. Um, I think that then is good enough. But if you need to go different, like you can, this is like maybe a basic example, but you are using this to create a logged in, signed in, sign up with Firebase.
Mhm.
So you add your username or your password, your email and your password. You remember this is created in a tab that is called authentication. But you also need to create a collection for that user had their information, so you can save maybe some specific behavior for your code. So this is going to be like related calls in the same method. I mean, this could be also done in something like with Node.js or whatever Google Cloud gives you to make in a different way. But if you decide to use it and create the user in the user collection in Flutter doing a second call, I don't feel like using that then is better than using an async await because your code structure is going to get a little bit messy if you're using that then. But if you are just creating, as I told you, I'm gonna retrieve this and send it in a list, that then is good enough.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But it's a personal approach, is the way I think this through. Maybe some of you can think something different.
Yeah, for me, I always seen it, like you said, as a personal approach. It tends to be from code that I read. Like if the developer has like a web background, they tend to like more using then,
Yeah.
because React and all that other
Yeah.
stuff that uses that a lot. I personally use a lot of async await, and that's good for me for most of my project. I feel it looks clean, but it's a preference thing. I don't know if there's a performance benefit of it. Um, I have to check what do you get as after you compile. Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Probably the
Yeah. Yeah.
compiler just just turned the code into the same thing at the end. But I have to check that, and that's not that hard to check.
It's a
Anyway,
bit. Yeah.
so we have two questions. Question number one says, any thoughts on compute?
Compute. If I remember as it should, compute is used as an isolate. So when you define a dot compute or you want to compute something, these actually create a new isolate if I remember. So as I told you at the beginning, if you want to be using one, maybe two to delegate work to another, because it could be a huge work like a reading something big or something like that, it could be good, but and not get used to always use a lot of compute, because you're going to be creating new isolates. It's like using also isolate that spawn. I think it's the other one that is actually almost the same. They could creating different event loops isolates in there. So it's good to use it once in a while, but it's not all your calls should be done like that.
Yeah, I think then you have sort of another layer of dependencies to communicate those messages
Yes.
back. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think this most of the time you can um, use a microtask instead of compute, because this create and schedule compute task, but it's going to be running in the same thread. So you don't have to be worrying about using more memory or create a new set of memory for another usage. So I could change use more microtasks than compute.
yeah. I mean, the beauty of it is that Dart kind of lift most of the work for you in with regard to synchronizing things.
Is one of
Right.
the many things that we love Dart. Just take a lot of our work.
Yeah, and then there's another question: is there any situation when future then is more preferable than future async await. I think you cover a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that. But you can when it's better that then I think the question is good because he has in the other way around. I tell when it's better use async await, but I don't actually say when it's better use future that then. Um, I don't know. Maybe if you have a little like how can I say? Uh, hmm, I don't think what when it could be better, but because I was about to say something that is a really bad practice. So uh, maybe when you're at the beginning, it's easier just to have a little calls and just feature that then. Because as you see async await get a little more structure, you need to use the try catch finally. It's more code. You have to set this and everything. And if you are trying to do a try catch in Dart, one of the things that I have noticed in the time at the time have you used it, if you set put try, it doesn't actually send you try catch. You have to say try braces catch ex error. You have to create so that many. You can also do a live template, but I have found that if you're not ready to go big and you are just testing how this is going to be do or how to be working with, you can use feature that then. And also, as I already told you, your code is going to be easy, like one JSON back to send it to your list. Just feature that then is just what you need.
Yeah.
I think if you have many steps, many different uses for that call to send to other one and then to other one. And I don't. And that's when I don't feel it's gonna be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're doing something sort of in place, something that you're not going to reuse, is very simple. It's like a few one-liners, or like two line, one line. I think then is your better choice. I mean, that's usually how I kind of think about it. Like, oh, I don't want to like,
Yeah,
I,
because both are useful.
yeah,
Both you can use either one, and it's gonna be as good as you only use async await. So it's not like they are against each other. It's just like depends of where you are using. You are free to use with one or the other. It's after you.
yeah. And then we don't have any more questions. Is there anything you want to like
Um,
add extra?
okay, well, maybe because we maybe have some Spanish speakers in there. I'll also every single one of you are invited. That is gonna be in Spanish. So tomorrow I'm gonna have a talk for Panama. So it's about stage management, and maybe if you have some time is gonna be. I think it's gonna be like for your 5 p.m. around time and gonna have a talk in there if you feel like hear me out again tomorrow. um,
You, did you have a link you want to share? We could
um,
you could share the
yeah,
either link, or you could share your screen and then we post it.
yeah, I let me find the event because I wasn't ready for that. So give me a second.
All right. So
uh,
yeah, while you search for that, I just want to mention there's two like really cool event that you could go out and check. Is that on June 25th? This is Florida Day, so it's Google and their team is organizing this big event, but there's also kind of other smaller meetup hosting this event. In fact, if I'm not sure I'm going to have the time, but if I find the time, I might be able to kind of through our channel, Florida Devs, we will also be join the Florida Day. It is
yeah,
an also event. They're gonna have amazing speaker. A lot of the people from the Florida team are gonna be participating in that, which is great.
yeah,
There's also an event which we participated last year, and it's happening again this year. It's the Flutter Hackathon. and this is really cool. It's a 2-day event. Is People from all over the world, and the way they organize is incredible because it allows you to see how all these people kind of, even though they're remotely and they're all over the world, they you almost make it personal because throughout the day, the organizers of this event sort of plug in to each meetup, or basically put it on the screen, and then you get to see other people what they're working on. And then when it's time to present what you build, they also do the same thing where they kind of connect to the people in Brazil, and then you get to see what they build in, and they connect to the people in Florida, and you get to see what they build in, and so on, and they go all over the world, which
Yeah,
is
this last year was amazing about that because when well, I in the global time where I live is right behind every single one of us. So
yeah,
for us, we were about to start, and some of the people in there has like 20 hours working. So it was amazing because we see a lot of work done, and we're like, okay, hello to all. So it's pretty good. It's pretty nice to also know the people and stuff. So
yeah, it's an amazing event. And by the way, I've been watching your talk with some friends here, so
yeah, I have
all
my
this
I
all
have my
these guys
little
have been, oh yeah, yeah, so all these guys have been kind of watching you talk. They really know this stuff. So Dash is
my
here. Pretty
yeah.
cool. Oh, you got Dash. Oh, nice. I love that hat.
There's little charro, Mexican charro hat in here. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I have the big one, but that's too big. I don't.
Hmm.
I use this one, and the other one is it's in there had her own place in there. So
Yeah. I think we
so
got another question, if you don't mind. Do you have time for?
yeah, yeah, don't
Okay.
worry.
We have. Are there any other good resources to refer to about asynchronous Dart?
Resources. Well, if you are starting to work with HTTP calls. I think maybe I pronounced her name wrong because she's from India. As Pooja Baumik is a GDE. She has a pretty good is in English pretty good uh, in Medium post that talks about calls, HTTP calls, and everything like using this code. You can use this code that app dot quick type, the one that I use for create a model. Yeah, that one, and also, what is could be good? I saw a couple of months ago one video from this guy. I think this called. I have been looking at because even when you know something is a good idea to go and watch how other
Somebody
people
else.
work.
Yeah.
So I see, I can't remember if it Phil Stacks or Resocoder. These two guys are amazing. And one of them used something called Darts. If you want to find this plugin, it's called Darts. It adds functional programming, and you can use a class called either with your futures, so you can return either model a class error or either your actual code that should be working. So it gets useful. So I really want to be recommended this plugin that is called a it's called Zero Coder, and the other one is Field Stacks.
Let me look for it. Uh,
Field Stack.
yep. Yep.
So I can't remember which one of them was the one that created that, but they have a really good set of resources for Flutter. If you look at there you have unit testing, staged management, remote config, dynamic links for Firebase, analytics, push notifications. They have a lot of content. It's a pretty good content. It's in English. If you have Spanish, you have the dark side. Don't have that many information yet. They have been doing this for years, but you still this is resources that you must have insight and take a look in some different ways they work stuff. So yeah, I think Rezo Coder. I can't pronounce his name also because I think he's from some place in Europe and it's different way we pronounce things here in Mexico.
Yeah.
So, but he's pretty good because like Dio is a HTTP library, and he has I think another one that is called Chopper. That it's if some Android developers in here, it's a retrofit. Is used like a retrofit for Android. So they have a lot of things in there. Believe me, I did this one functional error handle. It says either and task. That one is that I told you that it talks about functional programming. So this is totally recommend you see for English. You can see videos from Coder and field stacks and read whatever Pooja Baumik has in uh, in Medium. So yeah, I think that should be pretty
Yeah.
a lot of homework for you guys.
Yeah, these two website, they have a lot of resources.
Yeah,
One of the things that I would like kind of remind people is that, for example, like I know Reso Coder, he one thing he does, which is he does really well, is that he goes out and look for this kind of plugin that you might not know about,
yeah,
uh, and then he sort of explained them in great detail and build some sample app um, using them. However, um, you have many options in Flutter. So just because you kind of see this way of kind of doing things doesn't mean that that's the only way or maybe the best way. It's just a way. So typically, it is very important that you kind of know sort of what you're buying into when you use a plugin. So one thing that I always recommend, especially new developers, is that look at the plugin you're going to use and make sure you're comfortable with that decision you make. Yeah, are they making you write a lot of boilerplate code? Is it something that you feel that is going to be maintained in the future? Because if you put an app up there, um, it's going to be tough, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Because
But this is great resources, by the way.
yeah,
Awesome
they're
resources.
great, but as you said, because like I think Resocoder has some high resources in there. Is a NoSQL database for is done in Dart.
Hmm.
Um, but if you go to the hive.docs, it is not complete, and he also not go so in deep. And sometimes you actually don't need that big. Maybe share preferences is gonna be good enough. So Hive, because it works in boxes in a different way, it is maybe you're gonna be using a lot of things and you don't need it. So maybe as Hendrik says, you can use it, you can watch it, but it's a lot of options in there, and you need to be sure that it's actually what you need.
Yeah, like one of the things that, and this is from my own experience. This is something that I wanted to publish. I haven't published it because I have to pull it out from different projects. But it's the idea of using shared preferences and using some either local storage or remote storage or something, some way to kind of cache data. Um, that it's this is something that you got to think really hard and really
Yeah,
well about what depending on the project, obviously, but in some ways it's better just to go with the simple stuff, right?
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so let me see if there's anything else here. Oh, the Florida day is 9 a.m. Pacific time, um, to 9 a.m. the following day, which means for us in the east side of the U.S., it means
Yeah, it should be like
um,
noon to noon. Yeah,
yeah, like 3 hours later, like
yeah,
noon.
yeah. Because I am actually like the same time. It's gonna be 9 a.m. for me,
Mhm.
but we are 3 hours apart. So yeah, it should be like noon to noon for you.
Yeah, and then what else I was going to mention here? Um, we're going to so for our next meetup, I'm still looking for a speaker. So you're motivated enough to want to share whatever you have learned. Please reach out through through either Meetup or our Twitter channel, and I would love to hear what you've been learning, and if I we could be any help. If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody that will. That's for sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Adhel.
Thank you.
This was a great talk. Really love the sort of the approach you took to kind of explaining how future works. It's one of those hard topics that uh, when you see it, you say, "Oh, that's what it is," but then there's more to it, and then you have to kind of really
Yeah,
understand why you're doing what you're doing. And
I have been doing this talk for 2 times before,
mhm.
and one time one of the people in there, I can't remember who was and which presentation, asked me if why did I create this talk? If this happens to me that much that I feel I have to create something for for all of you. And yeah, actually it happens to me because as I was working in a startup environment, and sometimes it was like, oh yeah, you have to do this, but I won't have anything done. So it's like this is the answer for that moment. So yeah, it's how this is going to be helping you some one way or another. So
Yeah, I actually, now that you mentioned that I have a talk that I'm giving next week to the Florida uh, FUA. Oh no, FAU. I hope I'm not making the name wrong. It's a student organization here and down in Florida in one of these universities. Um, they asked me to talk about Flutter, and I've been giving this talk about the title of the talk is Flutter Mise en Dart. The only reason it's called that way is because uh, at least from my experience, you when I started working with Flutter, Dart was used new to me, and I never kind of took the time to learn any Dart because
yeah,
it felt so familiar. Like I didn't read anything. I just like started using it and it worked, and like almost like if I knew Dart from a long time. Um, but the reason for that is because Dart is similar to like Java, C Sharp,
yeah,
JavaScript, all these other languages, and it's very easy to pick up. However, when you do that, there's a lot of nice things about the language that you miss.
definitely.
And at that time, a few years ago, there's also things about the language that you might not want to fall into those,
Yeah,
mistakes.
yeah,
Uh,
and there are very difference like in between. A lot of people tells, yeah, I know what is the difference in between const and final
yeah,
because I have used it in Java, and they are not doing the same. They are not working the same. So it's kind of the advantages to even if you already know Java, JavaScript, and say in C sharp or whatever. It's good to go and take a quick look in the code base.
yeah.
Yeah.
So after I kind of felt comfortable and I was like, okay, I could build this, and I found like Florida was, like I knew what I was doing. I said, okay, now it's time to learn the language. So it was almost backward. So then I
Yeah.
started looking into Dart, like, okay, oh wow, I could do this thing. Oh, and this is how this works. But
Yes.
I already have like 2 or 3 apps out there, like that I shouldn't. I should be horrified looking at it. But yeah, it's. Then I said, okay, let me kind of look into the language and see how things really work. And
Yeah.
so I built that talk where I kind of dive into all the things that I went through to pick
That's
up the
amazing.
language.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's gonna be. I don't know. I haven't received a link to where and how is it gonna be. I don't know if it's only for the
I
students there.
okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for staying tuned. And check out, stay tuned on our meetup for our next event. Thank you.
Thank you.